Well, that four-game goal drought seems like a distant memory now, doesn't it? What were we all worried about? Norwich back on top and 4 points clear at the top of the Championship after a 2-0 win here at St Andrews over Coventry this evening. That's why they wanted to keep Timu Puki and Emi Buendia so much in the Championship, and that's paid off for them already quite a few times in this season, and particularly tonight. The two of them combining really, really well, making the difference against the Sky Blues. And Brentford have lost again, losing a local derby 2-1 at QPR this evening. Swansea did win, so they have kept pace with Watford in third place, but it means with 16 games to go, Norwich are 4 points clear of Brentford in second and 5 points clear of Watford and Swansea in third and fourth, which is a brilliant position. Clearly, they've broken the 60-point barrier. Timu Puki with his 14th goal of the season, Buendia with his 8th assist and 9th goal. So he's having a pretty decent season individually, isn't he? All of a sudden, that wobble, those worries, it's just fading away very quickly, isn't it? And as I was keen to talk to Daniel Farker about in the press conference before the game yesterday, you've got an interesting little period of games here, haven't you? Before we kicked off tonight, against 4 teams in the bottom 5. Coventry struggling tonight. They now have 1 win in the last 7 games, but they were game opponents. They certainly gave it a good go to sort of build a comeback in the second half. They were pretty spirited, but they didn't really have the quality. It didn't really feel that they could properly compete with Norwich in this game. But building from this game, home to Rotherham on Saturday, back here in less than 7 days' time for the team who were supposed to play here, Birmingham, who are also struggling, and it sounds like Aitor Karanka's under a lot of pressure already, and then bottom side Wickham the following Sunday. So if Norwich can really get a good haul of points from these 4 games, as they should, as leaders, as a team relegated from the Premier League, who should have the quality, as was shown tonight, to beat those kinds of teams who are low on confidence and battling relegation, then they're going to be a heck of a long way towards securing a playoff place with still a decent chunk of the season to go. That would be, 13 or 14 games left of the season. So this is a good start to that tricky little period. As I put in my match report online at pinkham.com, it's the first banana skin sidestepped expertly, as I put in the intro, in fact. But pretty smooth sailing, really. 65% possession, 12 shots on goal, 5 on target. Coventry did have 10 shots and 4 on target. So as I say, they were in this game. It's not like Norwich just rolled them over totally easily, but quality told, which is what we're seeing on a regular occasion with Norwich. Just what we saw on Saturday against Stoke, who of course are chasing a playoff place. Man of the match, got to be Buendia again. Creates 1, scores 1, created other chances as well, particularly one lovely free kick which Grant Hanley had saved on the line by the Coventry keeper with his feet. That would have been a direct header from a corner, which we don't get many from Norwich, do we? So that would have been nice. But in terms of ratings, I'll go Buendia, Cantwell and Pukki all for an 8, which tells the story, doesn't it? If those boys operate, if they Norwich are going to beat most teams at this level, and they did tonight. I despite Buendia and Pukki making the difference, I actually thought Cantwell again, for probably a 3rd game in a row, was really good and certainly pushing it to be one of Norwich's best attacking players. Some really nice passes along the way, really worked hard as well, and there were a couple of little maybe sort of moments where he looked like he was losing his temper a bit, but managed to sort of ride that out without actually getting into trouble. So yeah, really good from Todd again, and everyone else a 7. Dimitris Giannoulis maybe could have been pushing up towards an 8. Definitely his best showing, I would have said. Now starting to feel a bit more convinced about what's coming from him. You can see the athleticism from him, definitely getting up and down that left wing. But he did have one moment early in the second half where he got an absolute rollicking from Tim Krul for just sort of slack defending, really. And then Krul sprawled in front of Callum O'Hare and managed to do enough so that he fired into the side netting, really. And but other than that, I felt like Giannoulis is now on the same wavelength. You can see he's had that bit of training time. You can see he's adjusting to the English game, and hopefully there's more to come. There was one shot that he put over in the first half, which went over the bar. There was one lovely bit of skill to skin to Costa, the right wing back, who was booked for a poor challenge on Giannoulis early. Got dragged off by Mark Robbins early in the second half because he was really walking that tightrope. He tripped Giannoulis as he was running forward when he was already on a yellow card. So Yeah, there was a few yellow cards. Actually, Cantwell did get booked for one very clumsy tackle after he'd lost the ball and was charging back trying to recover things. Grant Hanley got an incredibly harsh yellow card in the first half when Tyler Walker had gone through, appeared to stand on the ball, and then as he was backtracking, banged into Hanley, got booked for that. Ben Gibson did get a booking for halting one of the Coventry players going through as well. So a few yellow cards in the game. But it could have been more, if we're perfectly honest, because as I say, they were able to cut through Coventry, who made 4 changes to their lineup tonight. Mark Robbins trying to get a response from a 3-1 defeat at Cardiff on Saturday. And they've just been promoted from League One last season, so it's a lot to ask of them to compete properly with Norwich, and it could have been 1-0 earlier to Norwich. Pukki benefited from some really good work from Cantwell, but then tried to tee up Cantwell instead of shoot when he should have been shooting in the 12th minute, and it went behind Todd, and that chance went missing. There was a big chance for Coventry when it was still 0-0 though. O'Hare got his head on the end of a good cross from Da Costa from the right, under pressure from Max Aarons, put his header over the crossbar, quite close range. Would have been a big ask of Tim Krul to save at that sort of close quarters. But 4 minutes later, Pukki makes the breakthrough. It was Ollie Skip actually stepping out in midfield, intercepted the ball, and then set Buendia on his way. And it was just a really clever through ball. How many times have we seen Buendia play through balls to Pukki? But it was just immaculate. He played it behind the defender Hyam so that he couldn't stop it, defence splitting pass. And then it puts Pukki exactly where he wants to be, bearing down on goal, able to shoot low across the goalkeeper into the far bottom left corner. He doesn't care which corner, does he? But that is exactly the site of goal that he wants and thrives on for Norwich and Finland. And of course, Bromby, before he arrived at Norwich as well. That is his bread and butter, and he made no mistake this time. 14th of the season, and now into Norwich City's all-time top 20 goal scorers. Pulls level with Tommy Bryston on 55 goals for the club. And there's a few players not far behind him as well. If he really finishes this season strong and gets, I think, 10 or 11 goals from this point, he would get into the level with the top 10, which I think is Ted McDougall off the top of my head. So that's something to certainly fight for. We'll see what his future holds. But if he could get into the top 10 of Norwich's all-time goal scorers in 3 seasons, what an achievement that would be. And if he does that, Norwich are probably going to be promoted, aren't they? So a lovely goal there. And as I said earlier, 8th assist of the season for Buendia. Then Vrancic, Giannoulis both fired over. That Hanley header, that was before the break. And then first minute of added time just before the break, and it was all down to Pukki. Rob Carl McFadzean, who just, I think, misjudged and maybe just didn't see that Pukki was coming over his shoulder, robs him, charges through, clean on goal, and just when you think he's going to pull the trigger, similar to that early chance with Cantwell, he's unselfish, pulls it back to Buendia, who's got a nice simple finish, and it's 2-0, and it always looks like a real uphill battle for Coventry from there. As I say, there was that O'Hare chance where Giannoulis got a telling off from Tim Krul. Gustavo Hamer smashed a shot just wide, and the directors were sat just in front of us in the press box here, and a lot of them were, the home directors were on their feet. They thought that was flying in. But then they kind of run out of steam, really. Max Aarons benefited from one really lovely switch from Todd Cantwell to the right, but just couldn't quite get the ball under his spell, and the keeper was able to sort of smother it. And then Kieran Dowell had come on as a substitute as well. It was Max teeing him up this time and fired a shot just over the crossbar, which is a shame, because that would have been a nice moment for him to really boost his confidence and get him on track. But in reality, the end period of the game was pretty processional. Norwich rolled through their subs, switched to a sort of 5-4-1 with Christoph Zimmermann going into the back line, Adam Eder eventually leading the line, Lucas Rupp replacing Cantwell. So they saw it out pretty safely. So a good night for Norwich, a happy night, and with that result at Brentford as well, it makes it an even happier one. And back-to-back wins, 6 goals in 2 games, having scored none in 4 before that. And we can build up to that Rotherham game on Saturday with plenty of enjoyment and looking forward to it. But of course, knowing you just cannot get carried away in the Championship. We know how difficult Rotherham are to play against, how well drilled Paul Warne has them, how motivated he always has them. He always drains every last drip of blood and sweat out of that squad, doesn't he? And of course, a Norwich fan himself. We know that will be a difficult game at Carrow Road. The away game, it was only 5th minute of injury time when Jordan Hugill scored the penalty which beat them away from home, and that was a real bruising encounter. So yes, 4 points clear at the top, brilliant, great position. Everyone would have taken this before a ball was kicked back in September, but you've got 3 more difficult games, and if they can just keep their concentration, keep the quality flowing, and get the other side of that, when we've got a huge game at home to Brentford midweek, which could end up being having huge ramifications for the closing stages of the season, then it could be a really exciting next few weeks. Thanks very much for watching. Let us know what you thought of the game in the comments below. And of course, ping.com is the place to go for all the post-match reaction and analysis.